Tom Telesco finally broke his silence. After his short-lived stint as general manager of the Las Vegas Raiders, he appeared on a podcast and opened up about his one and only season in silver and black. And yes, he dove into the draft. The one from 2024, the one that left Raider Nation with more questions than answers. Heading into that draft, it was no secret. The Raiders needed a quarterback, desperately. Aidan O'Connell was the only name on the depth chart who could be considered remotely viable, and even that felt like a gamble. Fans were buzzing, rumors swirled. It felt like destiny that Las Vegas would take their shot at a franchise QB. But then, something wild happened. By the time the Raiders were on the clock at pick 13, the quarterback market had been picked clean. 6 quarterbacks were already gone, before pick 13. It was a stunning twist that no one could have predicted. One of the most chaotic QB runs in recent draft history. So the Raiders pivoted, and they took Brock Bowers, the best tight end in the nation, a game changer, a weapon, and to be honest, very few in Raider Nation were upset. Bowers was, and still is, a special kind of talent. But that doesn't mean the what-ifs went away. Telesco was asked, if Michael Penix Jr. had still been there at 13, would the Raiders have pulled the trigger? What about Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy? Would any of them have been worth a move up the board? His answer was honest, and maybe even a little surprising. According to Telesco, the only quarterback they seriously considered trading up for was Jayden Daniels. Everyone else? Not worth the cost. Not with the Raiders roster and the state it was in. He admitted they did plenty of homework on Penix. They talked about him, dug deep. But when it came time to decide, the conclusion was simple. Probably not. Penix wouldn't have been the pick, at least not at 13. Looking back, Telesco even hinted that if he had known his tenure in Vegas would be just 1 year, maybe things would have played out differently. But at the time, he was building for the long haul. He expected to be around. He expected the head coach to be around. And when he looked at the roster, he saw a team that wasn't ready to support a rookie quarterback. No offensive line, no infrastructure, no stability. Throwing a young quarterback into that mess, that could have been a disaster. So the philosophy became clear. Build the foundation first. Add talent on both sides of the ball. Stack the roster before handing the keys to a new signal caller. Daniels was the exception. If they had a shot at him, it would have been a no-brainer. But trading up for McCarthy, Nix, or Penix, not worth the massive haul it would have taken. The Raiders couldn't afford to lose that many picks when they needed to rebuild nearly every position group. Telesco stood by that logic, and while hindsight always offers clarity, he admitted, like any GM, that he's been wrong before. And he's been told that too. But for a team that's been searching for stability, for identity, for direction, the 2024 draft wasn't just a missed opportunity, it was a mirror, a reflection of a franchise still trying to find its way. There was caution in the air. Tom Telesco spoke about the 2024 draft, and one concern stood out: durability. Michael Penix Jr. had a history of injuries in college. That mattered. When you're thinking about spending a premium pick on a quarterback, you can't ignore red flags, especially when they're tied to staying on the field. While Penix seemed healthy, heading into the NFL, the lack of reps and the history still gave Telesco pause. Then there was Bo Nix, durable, mobile, productive. And Telesco admitted he found Nix intriguing. In fact, he even said Nix ended up in the perfect situation. For a brief moment, you could hear the what-if in his voice. But the reality? The Raiders weren't ready. That was the hard truth underneath it all. The team was a mess, and no quarterback, no matter how talented, could fix that overnight. One of the most sobering takeaways from Telesco's comments wasn't about the draft itself, it was about expectations. He and head coach Antonio Pierce AP came into the season believing they'd have time. A few years, a window to build something real. But the 2024 season slammed that window shut. It wasn't just bad, it was the worst season the Raiders have had since moving to Las Vegas. Yes, there were flashes early, but when the dust settled, this team had nothing to show for it. No identity, no rhythm, no fight. By year's end, it felt like the Raiders were playing without direction, like a ship without a captain. And that cost both Telesco and AP their jobs. From the outside looking in, the disconnect between them was hard to miss. The chemistry wasn't there. The vision wasn't aligned. They weren't building the same house, and they weren't using the same blueprint. But to Telesco's credit, His approach to the draft wasn't reckless, it was calculated. He didn't see a quarterback worth mortgaging the future for, outside of Jayden Daniels. And when the opportunity to get Daniels disappeared, the Raiders didn't panic. They shifted. Instead of forcing a quarterback pick, they tried to build the foundation first. And in many ways, that approach made sense. Because while the Raiders didn't get their franchise QB in 2024, they may have walked away with the best tight end prospect in years, Brock Bowers, a legitimate Rookie of the Year candidate. Then, in the second round, they landed cornerback Joey Porter Jr., a cornerstone for the defense. They added offensive tackle DJ Glaze to help solidify the trenches, and they kept stacking smart, complementary pieces from there. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't headline-grabbing, but it was smart football. Still, the quarterback situation? That haunted the team all season long. Gardner Minshew came and went. Aidan O'Connell struggled to stay consistent. Eventually, even Desmond Ridder was thrown into the mix. But nothing clicked. No one took the reins. And without a real answer at quarterback, the entire operation suffered, especially AP and Telesco. The Raiders liked Jayden Daniels. They were high on him. But let's be real. Moving up for Daniels was always a fantasy. It would have cost a mountain of picks. And with so many holes on the roster, Telesco wasn't willing to give up the assets just to take a swing. He needed to build a team first, then find the quarterback. The problem? He never got the chance to see that vision through. Last year's tight end room wasn't bad. Michael Mayer showed promise. But when the Raiders drafted Brock Bowers, everything changed. The ceiling was raised. The offense had a new weapon. Dynamic, explosive, and ready to make an impact. It didn't translate to wins in the short term, but the move signaled something deeper. The Raiders were finally trying to stack real talent. On top of that, the front office added potential long-term building blocks in the trenches. Joey Porter Jr. in the secondary, Delmar Glaze on the offensive line. Those are picks with vision. Those are foundational players. But it's hard to talk about the 2024 draft without circling back to the quarterbacks. Nobody, and I mean nobody, saw 6 quarterbacks flying off the board that quickly. Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. were projected by many to go in round 2. Instead, they were gone early. The lesson? Mock drafts are fiction. On draft night, the league speaks, and it doesn't always follow the script. Look at Shedeur Sanders this year, a projected first-rounder by many. Some even said he'd be a top 10 pick, but he slid and slid all the way to the 5th round. This league is ruthless. It doesn't care about hype. It cares about projection, durability, character, and fit. So when it comes to Penix Jr., the concerns were real. The injuries, the risk. Even if he had fallen to the Raiders at 13, Telesco made it clear he probably wouldn't have pulled the trigger. That decision, or lack of one, wasn't about fear. It was about building smarter. Now Bo Nix? That's a different conversation. He might have been a fit. The tools were there. Some fans like me were high on him, others weren't sold. But he had mobility, leadership, and toughness, traits that could have worked in silver and black. Still, when it came down to it, the Raiders stuck to their board. They took the best player available, and honestly, that might have been the right call. Now did the Raiders fail Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco? That's tough. Pierce deserved another shot. He brought fire, he brought energy. And despite the chaos, some of us believed he should have gotten at least one more year. Same for Telesco. He was measured in his decisions, trying to rebuild responsibly. But the franchise chose to reset. Again, John Spytek was brought in, a new vision, a fresh start, and so far, there's something different in the air. The energy feels right. The addition of Pete Carroll to the front office changed everything. His track record speaks for itself. He knows how to build winners, he understands culture, and you can feel that shift already taking hold in Las Vegas. You can feel the tone changing. The practices look sharper, the messaging is clearer, the expectations are higher. Now, of course, none of it matters unless it shows up on Sundays. We've all been burned before. The off-season hype, the press conference sound bites, the glowing camp reports. We lived that last year, and it didn't end well. But something about this feels different. And maybe, just maybe, that change needed to happen. Maybe parting ways with AP and Telesco was the painful move that sets the Raiders on the right course. Time will tell, but for the first time in a long time, it feels like Las Vegas is building towards something real. Now it's a different picture entirely. The Raiders have a quarterback in Geno Smith, they have a new head coach in Pete Carroll, And they've added Brock Bowers and Ashton Jeanty to the offense. Top to bottom, the roster is better than it was last season. Stronger, faster, and far more cohesive. And honestly, none of this happens without making the tough calls. Moving on from Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco wasn't easy, but it might have been necessary. Give credit where it's due. Thank you for Brock Bowers. Thank you for Joey Porter Jr. Now, it's a new chapter. Enter John Spytek. In his first year as general manager, Spytek came into the NFL draft with a clear plan, and he executed it with confidence. Afterward, he described the experience like drinking from a fire hose. Literally. He joked about a gif he kept sending around. Peter Griffin getting blasted in the face with a fire hose, then cut to a bloody skull. Brutal, but accurate. And still, he loved it. He praised the collaboration with Pete Carroll and the coaching staff. He liked what they accomplished in a short period, and he made one thing crystal clear. Winning the draft is how you build a great football team. It's how you create something sustainable, something that lasts. You can already feel the shift. The Raiders are finally moving in the right direction. Media outlets are noticing. Former players are speaking up. Even current players feel it. Joey Porter Jr. said it best. "This is the most fun I've had playing football since I was a kid." That's not just PR spin. That's real. That's culture. And Pete Carroll? He's out there at 73, sprinting around the field, cracking jokes, pinning guys in drills, bringing juice like he's 25 years old. The vibe he's creating can't be faked. It's contagious. The buzz isn't just local anymore. NFL Network's Isaiah Stanback listed the Raiders as his surprise team for the 2025 season. He pointed to the additions of Carroll and Geno Smith, Jeanty in the backfield, and the overall roster overhaul. His prediction? The Raiders are going to make wreckage in the AFC. Is it bold? Maybe. But Raider Nation feels it too. This offseason has a different energy, a different tone, a different belief system. And yes, we've been here before. The hype, the hope, the heartbreak. But this feels rooted in experience, grounded in football philosophy. Carroll has done it before. He's built winners. He's built culture. Now he's here to do it again. In Las Vegas. But it's not just the energy Pete Carroll brings, it's how he sustains it. He's not some unproven rookie coach trying to figure it out. He's done this before. He's won. And now, with John Spytek by his side, the Raiders are showing what a real organizational shift looks like. Free agency, they handled it like pros. No overpaying, no desperation, just calculated moves. Geno Smith might not be the future, but he's a smart, stable option for right now. And that matters, because in the NFL, stability at quarterback, even as a placeholder, gives you a shot. Then came the draft, and it was a statement. Ashton Jeanty in the first round, Jack B in the second, Dante Thornton Jr., a wideout who's been lighting up camp. Add in 2 offensive tackles in Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant, plus Darian Porter, and suddenly you've got a rookie class that looks like a blueprint. On paper, it's solid. On the field, the early signs are even better. The buzz out of camp is real. Guys are flying around, competing, laughing, building chemistry, but preseason will be the real test. That's when we'll learn who's ready to earn snaps and who still needs time. Still, so far, so good. And me? I'm optimistic, more than I've been in a while. I truly believe the 2025 Las Vegas Raiders can shock the league. I know the national media isn't expecting much, but I'm calling it now. 8 or 9 wins, maybe more if things break our way. But even if it's just 8 or 9, this team is going to be scrappy, tough, competitive. The kind of team that punches above its weight and earns respect every Sunday. But I gotta ask, Raider Nation, am I being too optimistic? Am I just letting the silver and black blood pump a little too hard through my veins? You know how I get. I ride for this team. I believe when most don't. So, what do you think? Do you believe the Raiders are going to be the biggest surprise in the NFL this year, or do you think I'm just blowing smoke? Let me know down in the comments, and while you're at it, tell me if you think Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce deserved another shot. Did we give up on them too soon, or was it time for a change? Either way, Raider Nation, we're here now.